the idea that, of saying like, just come here with your chalk and people will join you. Because we've also seen so many times people who show up and who stay engaged. They're sort of, like, I'm looking for things to do in New York City that don't feel so commoditized, and to just be able to say like, yep, just start going. This is the place. And I think that is the first step. And there's sort of been not quite disappointment, but I'm sort of like, okay, like when are we going to get to the more like nuts and bolts, like this specific place, like what happens with this specific building? What do we want to do with this square? People aren't sort of thinking on that yet. It is sort of still at this higher level. But I think, as it happens more often, as people do it more often themselves, I think it'll naturally become more specific to the place. I think the first step is sort of like showing this as a thing that can happen.
But for me, it's very valuable exactly to talk about the high level, because the high level is something that everybody else can relate, like your now pandas. So if you're like, actually, like, to tell the truth, it's quite ambitious project, because it's only going to work if lots and lots of people start doing that on a regular basis. But then in this case, we can relate to each other only if we can find very similar desires or very opposite desires, something that we disagree with.
So there have been some disagreements, and what's been shocking is that it's almost never an issue. People are like, I'm going to do my thing over here, you do yours over there. That's fine. It's okay. You can have completely opposite things, and it works. And that's been really cool to see. It's like, oh, it's actually not that big a deal. You can just
yeah. So it'll be interesting to try to involve some, like, I don't know, some kind of right-wing people not in doing that, because interestingly, right-wing people now so much for grassroots, because they're representing the deprived population very often.
I mean, yeah, it's interesting you say that. We've definitely seen sort of people who are more conservative in New York are usually people who have, like really tight scheduled jobs and, are always in a hurry. They don't really have the time to sit down and think about it. They do look and consider it, but they never accept the invitation to chalk. So definitely still some work to do there on how we get them involved. I feel in generally what I've seen, the more conservative things in New York, there is a bit more of structure to it. I think they will respond more to like, come here at this time and do this. And if you get some like well-respected agency or organization involved, that usually gives it sort of this like air of legitimacy that those types of people like. But I think in terms of the activity itself, people would be okay with it if it just sort of had the right framing. Because I was talking to the guy last time who was sort of washing everything away, and I was like, he was telling me about his kids, and I was like, do your kids ever chalk? And he was like, yeah, they love it. It's great. And I was like, and do you join them? He's like, yeah, it's my favorite. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah. So basically, what I also want to use this interview, maybe we should now try to invite other people in other places, not in New York, because people are writing me and they want to download this napkin that I'm using and, print it out and asking how to relate to that project. And it looks complicated, but actually maybe we could simplify that. And so if we put like the videos, photos, description, and very clear invitation, and maybe something like, okay, we're going to do it this Friday in New York, we will put like, Zoom or something on a mobile phone. You can see what we're doing. You can show us what you're doing. Just join the Zoom call or something like that.
Yeah, that would be cool. I think it is so much less work than I expected. We'll usually start out by sort of putting something down that serves as like a center. So we'll either draw sort of the like a big building that's around us, or you start with like a big like pond or some kind of plant, some kind of just thing to ground everything around, and then people very quickly just start drawing things that they're in the mood to draw. So it's really simple to get started. I think a big part of it is sort of having people who have chalk in hand, just ready to hand it to people. Because if you sort of go up to them and be like, hey, would you like to participate in this thing? No. But if you just say like, take this chalk, just draw whatever you want. And then they usually figure it. And then they ask sort of like, well, what am I drawing? What are we doing here? And then you can explain it. But then they have the chalk in their hand and they're excited to draw. So I think, like you were saying, there's a few small points. But I think rather than text, probably the easiest way is to, if someone wants to do this, like a 5-minute conversation, I think you can convey all the information. And I think that also feels a bit more human than sort of just reading like, here's the instruction manual on how to do this. Because I'm sure it also varies in place to place. You know, New York, people are running around, busy, so you have to just grab their attention. Whereas I'm sure in a slower place, you could maybe strategize a little bit on how to engage people a bit differently. So the way we've been doing visual assemblies in New York is we show up with a box of chalk and some food. And maybe 3 or 4 people who sort of know what's going on and are going to be on board. And we start by sort of drawing something in the plaza that we've chosen. Something that's sort of like very neutral, very basic. Maybe something like a pond with an island or a bridge, or sometimes just drawing the building that's around us, sort of taking the environment and bringing it into this new world that we're creating with the chalk. And pretty quickly, people will start to take a look and see what's going on. And then we found it's really important to have 1 or 2 people who have just a stick of chalk in their hand, ready to hand it to someone. So if someone's kind of curious and looking, just be like, hey, do you want to join? Do you want to draw something? And then they'll usually follow up with, well, what should I draw? And that's when you can sort of explain, like, well, we're drawing sort of the world we want to see. We've had themes some weeks, so we say sort of the theme this week is protest, or this upcoming week it's going to be complaint. So draw something that's just bothering you, and then how are you gonna change it? And then once there's a few strangers drawing, you'll have like 4 or 5 people drawing the different things all over the ground. Then people start coming in much quicker, and you can sort of just talk to them, engage them, talk to them about what's going on the ground. We've had some people kind of stop by and gawk a little bit, and maybe they're not in the mood to chalk, but they might be in the mood to talk about what's on the ground. But I think that the crucial elements are really just bring the chalk, start off with something on the ground, and then have people there holding the chalk in hand to offer it to people, because it does grow really quickly.